everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. This is episode 2, season 2 of SGi After Dark. We do have a special guest here today, so we're super excited to have him on board for the podcast. And I'm going to have him introduce himself and why he's here on the podcast today. So whenever you feel free to go.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jack Flynn. I am the Assistant Dean of Students here at St. John's University, class of 1998, class of 2005, and for the past 8 years, I was the advisor for Student Government Incorporated.
Wow.
I was supposed to be the special guest, so I should have chimed in there. But
Special is a word I would use to describe you, Paul.
well, my name is Paul Gaylor, SGi President. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm a senior, and I'm ready to graduate.
And he's actually had the pleasure of working with Jack more closely in his last term, being the student government treasurer. So they do have a great relationship together. And
Sort of.
and it's definitely great to have him here and just, hear your experience as the SGi advisor. So for people that are not familiar with what the SGi advisor does and what's your role, would you be able to just explain that for our viewers today?
Sure. The advisor has two primary responsibilities. The first is they oversee the financial side of student government. So the financial clerk, the accountants, the advisor supervises those people. And so I had the pleasure of working with Miriam Marshall for a number of years, then with Bailey McClure, and then recently Lee Seno, who is the current SGi financial clerk and an accountant. She's been great to work with. On the other side, and this is definitely the more fun side, you get to work with the executive board directly. You are the advisor to all of student government, but you meet weekly, sometimes more than weekly, with the executive board. You provide advice, support, whatever they need to reach their goals. It's the advisor's responsibility to help them get to that point. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that experience. Probably the best experience I've had since I've been working at St. John's has been being the advisor.
And you did that for how long? 8 years?
8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was 8 executive boards? Or?
8 executive boards.
Wow.
Yeah. Noshin was my last executive board. Yeah.
You knew a lot of people then.
I certainly did. Yeah.
I would say that's really cool. But I feel like it's like a nervous system. You have a lot to control at once, and you have your eyes on everything at every single moment. So I feel like kudos to you for doing that for 8 years. Because
Thank you.
It's a lot to keep up
and
with.
he also did student conduct a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Well, that is my primary job.
Exactly.
I am the director of student conduct. That's my primary responsibility. So this was an additional responsibility.
Yes.
But this was definitely the fun one. I think that when you work in student conduct, people see you as the bad guy, for lack of a better term,
That's how we
right?
met, Jack.
That is how we met. I don't intend to violate federal law, but that
didn't
is in
wanna
fact
say
how
it.
Paul and I met.
Because student conduct.
But the thing about student conduct is that it's very straightforward. It's very, especially with serious issues, you have to have a certain
Yeah.
type of personality. But when I was the advisor, I get to really show students who I was, and I get to really care about students and really invest in them and show them that I was not just the bad guy, that I was a person who was invested in their success. And that's really the part that I miss is the year to year. It was always a challenge. Every e-board was different. I'm sure your e-board is different than, Paul, than it was when Noshin was the president.
Definitely.
But that was what was so exciting for me, is that every year it was a new challenge and a new opportunity. And I really enjoyed it. And I miss you guys. I miss doing that. I miss walking into the office. I miss having that interaction, that back and forth.
Yeah.
It was really funny because back in freshman, I didn't sign out of Hollis,
Yeah.
Then I get an email from Jack Flynn. I'm like, oh man, dude. And
No one's
then
ever excited to get an email from me. I don't
But
understand
then
it.
I start running, and I'm a senator, and they're like, oh, this is Jack Flynn. I'm like, oh god, that guy knows. And then but then ever since then, it's been really fun. And then we joke around a bunch of stuff like last year. Well, Jack is a Rangers fan.
Yes.
So that's also.
I like professional hockey.
Less downfall about him, but everything else is pretty good.
Yeah, that's super, super funny. I see you guys are rival teams, but that could be a podcast episode for it.
I'm sure it could.
Yeah, he probably could. That's why I just stopped it there. I was like, we're not going to talk about that.
He knows. He'll probably get flamed really quick. But I guess another question that we would have, or just the viewers would have in general, what do you feel like was your biggest challenge or challenge that you faced while being an SGi advisor? That's something that you had to overcome with time.
Each year was 6 or 7 different personalities. And, you might have 1 or 2 people who was on the e-board from the previous year, and then you'd get 5 or 6 new people. And each time you had to prove yourself. And each time those individuals came to their position with their own preconceived notions. Now, we joked a little bit before about Paul's experience going through the conduct process. A, you're not the only person who became an SGi senator or an SGi leader who went through the conduct process, but you also probably had your own preconceived notions about who I was based on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that was an annual challenge, proving to people that I was not who they thought I was, that I was a person who was just as invested in their success as somebody like Ebony Calvin or somebody like Nicole Torres, who people who really were front and center in their development, in a student's development, especially in a student leader's development, convincing them that I could do the same thing and that I could be that same person. And then, of course, each year, personalities are unique. Sometimes you really get along well with people. Paul and I don't really like each other, but Paul and I do riff off each other very well. But I mean, I think I've had a good working relationship with every single president. And even though every single president was different, came with different concerns, different ideas, I feel like by the end of the year I had a good working relationship with every president, and I'm very proud of that.
That's great. Yeah, I feel like that's how it feels on the other end of like the spectrum of student government, because it's different executive board members in front of you every year. Like, I know for us, there was a few of us that hadn't been involved in student government, and then we ran, and it was like, okay, now it's time for us to prove ourselves. And then it's like, now all the seniors are leaving now, and I'm like really sad, but now it's like, okay, we have to prove that we can do it once again, and we can learn from what we learned from this year. And they're never too far behind if we ever have any questions or any of that stuff, and it's just honestly a learning process in itself.
Student government is bigger than any one person. It's bigger than any one president, bigger than any one advisor, bigger than any vice president, any one person. It's something that's been long-lasting. It's something that has supported St. John's students now for, 30 years as an incorporated SGi, but certainly significantly longer than that. I mean, student government was viable when I was a student.
Yeah.
So, it's never about one person. There's always going to be a leader who's going to step up, and there's always going to be people who are going to make student government the best it can be.
Yeah. I agree.
That's why I'm Jack's favorite e-board member.
Not even close. Like, not even top 10. If I gave you a list, he might not even be in the top 25.
There's 8. You said 8 years. So
8 presidents.
E-board, so definitely.
Okay, well, you're top 10 in presidents. I'll give you that. You're top 10 in presidents.
So top 1. I'm the favorite right here.
Yeah.
Frank Obermeyer would disagree, but that's okay.
I don't know what that is.
No, that's super, super funny. I don't know. You're my favorite president. I'll say that. But
I'm one of one.
You're my president. But yeah. So, speaking of favorite memories, I guess we could ask you, like, what was your favorite memory of SGi, if you do have one?
That's tough.
No, I'd say every year, Winter Carnival.
Yeah.
Everyone coming together at the holiday, being there for the tree lighting. I think that everyone is relaxed because you're right at the end of the semester. The Christmas break is coming. Yeah. All that work has been done, and now it's just a bunch of people enjoying it. And I think I always felt closest to an e-board when we were spending that Winter Carnival period together. It was one of the things I really hated about COVID is that I didn't get the bonding moments with those e-boards the same that I would have during normal times. And I think really something like Winter Carnival, which brings the entire community together, that's the type of thing that I always look back fondly on. That, and I always tried to take a group picture with my e-boards each year. I usually would do that either at the Student Government Awards dinner or at the Student Life Awards dinner. And those pictures mean a lot to me, to see those people who are now graduated, successful in their career. Some people have gotten married. Those are really great memories for me.
That's nice. I wish we had the Winter Carnival.
Yeah, I know. We'll do something at Spring Fling to make up for it.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, we've been planning that right now, so it's been definitely something that keeps you up at night trying to plan everything. But I'm very hopeful for this year. Like, I don't know, something about, I think since all programming boards are involved this time around, I feel like it's really going to be a good one, and it's really great because I know there's a lot of seniors on board, so just making it a memory that they can remember.
Yeah, so this is the 3 program boards and then us too, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. It's great when you got that type of diversity in terms of planning because people are going to bring their own ideas and their own perspectives, and it's going to really make something nice.
Shout out to Sam Ba.
And more money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had more money.
Pay up.
That's the best thing about it. But I don't know if you have any other questions.
I guess since I have Jack on the floor here, what would you say regular students don't know about student government that you would say that
you wish they knew? I guess. Yeah.
I think the amount of work. that you all put in and the amount of time and effort and energy you put into being representatives. You know, I think that it's very easy if you're a student who is not active, who's not, you know, invested in the university community, to think of student government the way you might have thought about student government in high school.
Yeah.
And often student governments in high schools, they are, you know, run by the administration. They're often mouthpieces for the administration. And student government on this campus, that's not the case. You know, you work well on a year-to-year basis with, whether it's the Board of Trustees, the president, the vice president of student affairs, whoever it may be, but you're an independent voice.
Yeah.
And there are, I think, the tension that comes from representing student needs versus balancing relationships with administration. I think that tension is really healthy.
Yeah.
And that tension is what brings out, you know, the level of support that I don't think students fully understand or appreciate. And I wish that they could see you all. I wish that they could come to your Monday meetings. I wish that they could come to your advisor meetings. I'm glad to hear that. That's a lot of times it's just a space thing, but I mean, I think of your Monday meetings every Monday.
Yeah.
I think of the meetings you all do as an e-board together. And I just think about the amount of hours you put in every week. And you're not doing it for the paycheck, because the stipend is not worth what you're doing it for. You're doing it because you believe in students and you believe in the student experience being the best it can be, and you're putting yourselves out there for it. That's what I would like the average student to understand.
It is a lot of work, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years in a row, even on the e-board members, like...
He's like checked out already. Like,
no, I'm doing my
He would
work,
not be
but-
the first president who made it to March 1 and had checked out.
So a lot. But no, I still do my work.
he's still
obviously.
very. One thing I can say I applaud him is that he like. The big theme with our e-board is accountability. So just making sure we're all holding each other accountable for like any tasks we may have, or just. For example, on our Monday meetings, campus dialogue, what
Yeah,
concerns
we
do you
added
have?
that.
So
Yeah, you know what campus dialogue is.
Yeah, that started when I was the lead advisor. Campus Dialogue started.
yeah, so like he basically with the concerns, he comes back the next week, and like the turnaround time has been a lot quicker. We've been getting more answers, and just now we have Senate groups, which he can talk about a little bit more, just because it's more for like a top 4 initiative.
Yeah, so I mean, we did have campus dialogue, but now we have campus dialogue updates. So like we basically write down who said it and when, or what was a concern, and then it's 2 weeks. So we give the update on who we emailed and then what they said. So it's been working out really well with that.
Yeah.
That's great. That's an additional level of accountability that didn't always exist.
Yeah, so I mean, I made it clear because it's really easy to forget stuff.
Sure.
At campus dialogue,
So
because
easy.
everyone just says, "Oh, like their experience," but it's been great so far. So that's awesome. And then we just added Senate groups where, you know, a lot of people are afraid to speak about their experiences sometimes in like the big 40 groups of senators we do have.
Yeah.
So now each e-board member, or like let's say Ava, Daniel, which is the VP secretary who are in charge of Senate, and may break the groups up to 5 on different times during the week. So we do it twice a semester. And then we just have something to guide our conversation. But it's basically just to see their experiences. So I always say, like, do you feel safe on campus? Like, general questions like that. And actually, we've had a lot of, like, concerns that I didn't even know about, even in campus dialogue, which is great. So, I mean, it's been great with that, too. So that's the Senate groups that we're doing.
I like that. I think that when you give people an opportunity, shy people don't want to stand up in front of a group.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they don't want to have to share their experience, especially if it's personal, especially if it's intimate. They don't want to share it in a larger group. So giving them that platform, giving them that voice in a safe environment is really important. And that's not surprising to me that you're hearing things you might not have otherwise heard.
Yeah, and each group I made sure there's no friends, like no one knows.
Yeah.
So it's like
That is a big,
huge because that was the biggest thing for me, because I was like, you know, you got to get outside your boundary here. So I did it by each different year, different college. So when we sit down, it's like they're all like,
Hey.
who are you? I'm like, all right, we're going to do intros. And then by the end of it, they're all laughing and they all get to know each other. Maybe the coffee and the donuts helped a little bit.
You also try harder when it's people that you don't know.
Exactly,
I think that it's real easy. I mean, you two know each other so well that if the two of you are in a room, there's a confidence between the two of you that comes out. But the two of you would be different if it was a stranger. And because a stranger brings out the best in us, a stranger puts us in that natural mode of wanting to impress and wanting to put our best foot forward. So I think that's a good way of sort of mixing it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been great so far, but I accountability is something that I've learned from last year from obviously you, because I just feel like a lot of times, I mean, you're super professional, and and you can joke, like, a lot of people, like, you're very, like, joking around, but at first, like, I didn't know, like, you know, as you said, like, I was like, I don't know if I could say this joke or not, but then after, like, the first couple months, it's kind of easy for me to, like, open up about joking up, so.
You know, I think it's important when, and this isn't just for me in my role, I think it's important for administrators to make sure that we set boundaries, but make sure that those boundaries, and make sure those boundaries are understood, but also not to hide our humanity too much. I think the biggest mistake I made as a professional early in my career was hiding my humanity. And it's okay to set standards for people, and it's okay to let people know if they're not living up to your standards or if they're crossing your boundaries. But if you do so in a way that doesn't make them feel like they have a genuine connection with you, then you're not investing in them the same way. And I think that if I look at the early part of my career versus the current part of my career, my relationships with students are so much better. Because I'll still tell you when you've gone too far. I'll still make sure you understand my expectations. But we can laugh the next day. And you know that I'm invested in you, and you know that I'm doing it not because I'm angry or I'm anything negative. It's that I want the best for you. And that I'm doing this to prepare you for a future in which certain boundaries can't be crossed.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I feel like that goes for us, too. Like, even this year, we've gotten a lot that, like, they've seen student government more around campus, because if there's an event going on Common Hour, we're like, okay, let's at least just show face, like, see what's going on, definitely. You know, say hi to people, hey, what's up, you're more than welcome to come into our office, talk to us, like, we're always free, or just, like, interacting on socials. That's what I've tried to do more, is just interact and make sure every club gets that spotlight that they do. For different events, whether it be because we can be giving them all of this money, but we want to see how the events are doing, and, you know, just create that relationship with them, that they can come to us whenever there's a situation. We've had students come to us recently with issues that they've had that have no, like, I guess, correlation with student government at all, but they feel comfortable enough to come to us and talk to us about those things. So we really appreciate that students see us as, you know, a resource and someone to lean on, more than just, like, okay, a bank with, like, just money.
Yeah, they don't see just the dollar signs. They see the individual who cares about them. And that's good work on the part of you and on the part of press secretaries in general. A good press secretary creates an environment in which people don't just see you as pictures of people in suits. They see you as actual people. They get to know who you are, and then they do feel more connected to you. So that's something you should be proud of.
Thank you. Yeah.
She reposts, like, everything.
I repost everything. I'm like, okay, I'm so sorry it didn't get back to you, but, like, if you could send me your next post, I'll repost it. I promise, because it just gets flooded every single day. It's a lot.
It should be a really active account. Our socials, I still say our. I still think of SGi as our. SGi socials should be super popular, 2, 3, 4 posts a day, because there's so much going on campus.
Yeah, I try to keep posting daily. Like, I introduce Why SGi Wednesdays, and that's more of, like, a testimonial for each one of our senators, or just, like, our committee chairs to write about why they joined SGi and why should students join, because, you know, elections are coming up and students want to know, you know, so.
I was big on the emphasis already, telling the e-board to start writing their
transition docs
for the fall, because at the end of the year, and I'm hands up on this too, like, it's just like, what did I do, like, over the summer of, like, transitioning in, because that's, like, when you're most nervous, so that's where the most information should be, just because, like, you're just like, okay, I don't want to mess this up. And the spring, it's like, you kind of already get it. Like, obviously there's events that you should be aware of, and, like, mindfulness, but, like, the fall is, like, even for my presidency, it's like, I understand, like, right now, I understand everything that's going on. So, like, if someone comes and be like, oh, I'm like, yeah, that's fine, we already have this. But in the fall, it's like, okay, guys, like, I sat them down, like, every week. I was like, all right, how do we have an agenda for this? Like, 2 weeks in advance. I was like, we didn't. But now it's, like, more like, all right, well, I can talk about this. And
it's very routine. We already know, like, okay, like, problem, solution.
But, yeah, no, it's been great, because this podcast has been awesome, because every week, like, even, like, for instance, Red House is going to be coming on.
Yeah, they're going to be coming to talk about their fashion show.
So
and
it's good stuff.
The students from the Globe Vietnam trip that just happened, they were on our last podcast. So it's just, like, we're just trying to get the word out for students to, you know, be on our podcast. Red Zone wants to be on our podcast, too. So it's just,
You know, this institution, we do so many amazing things. and
Yeah.
we don't have the platform always to put the spotlight. And, you know, I think it's something like Red House. I mean, for how long has Red House been putting on amazing fashion shows? And you might not think of St. John's as the first place that would put something like that out there, but Red House has been so successful for so long.
Yep.
You know, what other college has students going to Vietnam?
Yeah.
Just for the purposes of service, you know?
Yeah.
And we go all over the world. I mean, you know, you think about the things that happen here that's so unique and so special. It's what I love about being at St. John's.
Yeah.
No, it's been great.
Totally, yeah. But thank you so much for being on our podcast. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Hey, first man to do it. I want to say it. Years and
I
years.
appreciate all the work that Amara put into this.
No, but truly, thank you for being on our podcast. Thank you for sitting here, you know, getting the word out about student government from a different perspective, because there's only so much we could say, but someone that has worked with student government more internally, it's great to just hear and just get the word about what we do and, you know, just pat us on the back, because sometimes we don't get the pats that we deserve all the time. But, yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure to tune into our next episode, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.